Hello friends, a very warm welcome. I am Vikas Bhardwaj, your friend, and welcome to your own one platform which is providing you clarity of thought, Ansarkari. So in that series which you have been discussing different concepts in the minimum possible time with basic clarity of thought, we are taking up what is constitution, suffrage, invasive species and Lumbini. Again, I'm stressing upon the fact that the goal is to make sure that we revise your concepts but with a fresh thinking and clarity of thought. Let's see what's that. So, constitution. What is constitution? No, it is a system of laws and basic principles. System of laws and basic principles which are the guiding principles or the holy law of the land. They are superior in nature than the ordinary laws. So you can say these are the principles which may be written down or which may be unwritten also, or you know, say oral. So what a constitution means is that it is a set of documents. It is a set of legal documents that is set to embody ideas and thought process of a nation. Indian constitution in that sense is a role model for the whole world. It is one of the longest constitution, or I should say it is the longest written constitution, and it is listing out various ideas, various thought processes which are the guiding light for India in the time to come and also in the present circumstances since its beginning. Now, the constitution of a nation must be such that it must prepare for the challenges of the future also. How far do you think that Indian constitution, according to you, fits the bill? Because the lively debates and the ideas which are coming up in the news and in the contemporary times, they are a sign that what is going to be the nature of India based on the constitution in the future. Now, Constitution Day. So we all know it is called Samvidhan Divas. Can you tell me the date fast, quick? It is November 26, and the adoption of the Constitution took place on November 26, 1949. It came into effect on 26 January 1950, which is being celebrated as Republic Day. So through a gadget notification, we went on to declare ourselves a republic on 26 January 1950, and even through a gadget notification our Constitution of India came into being on November 26, 1949. Now what do you know that this day which we are calling at Samvidhan Day, how this day was celebrated earlier on? Yes, this day was known as National Law Day. National Law Day. 26 November it was celebrated as National Law Day, which is now celebrated as Samvidhan Divas. Coming to the idea of the drafting of the constitution, we all know the committee was under Dr. Babasaheb Bhimrao Ambedkar. His guidance, his simplicity, his ideas are reflecting in the guiding light for India in the present time. When we say his ideas, what comes to your mind? Your mind should run with ideas like liberty, equality, fraternity, access of services, and also positive discrimination for the deprived apart from some values. So when we say that it is a great role by Baba Sahib Bhimrao Ambedkar, there were other leaders also. So this picture is of the drafting committee of the Constituent Assembly, and if we say the sitting from the left, you can say the first gentleman is N. Madhava Rao. This N. Madhava Rao sir, NMR. Then you have Sayyid Muhammadullah Sadullah, Sayyid Muhammadullah Sadullah. Then you have Baba Sahib Bhimrao Ambedkar, Dr. Sahab, Dr. Ambedkar Sahab. Then you have Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer. Alladi Krishnaswamy Iyer. Then you have Sir B.N. if we talk about who is the standing one, the first standing one is Sir B.N. Rao, and after that is S.N. Mukherjee. This is Sir B.N. Rao, whom we call as an advisor of our Indian Constitution. We'll be doing a separate video on him sometime sooner. Sir B.N. Rao, and then you have, as I said, this is S.N. Mukherjee, and then Jugal Kishore Khanna. These are some of the gentlemen who are part of the drafting committee of the constitution. Just to make you feel a little more curious about India's luminaries, the makers of modern India, that I wanted to give you certain names. Now, Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar is known as the father of the Indian Constitution. Father of the Indian Constitution. The question arises, could there have been any mother of Indian Constitution also? Or is it so? Can we attribute, can we provide certain, I should say, tribute to a great lady, to Mother India, who can be seen as a great contributor to the making of the Indian Constitution? Dr. Ambedkar was born in 1891 in Mhow, Madhya Pradesh. He fought for social discrimination, I should say eliminating social discrimination. He fought for removing inequality, untouchability, and so on. And he was made the first law minister of India. He was the first law minister of India. And because of his legal expertise, he was given such. These are some of the basic ideas which must inspire you to go further. Now, when we say universal adult franchise, which is also known as political franchise, so suffrage is the right to vote. Suffrage is the right to vote in public, or I should say political elections. It is sometimes used to refer as any right to vote, that is right to vote. So it is granted to qualifying citizens. So in India the age is 18. Please check out the Amendment Act by which or by which other measure this age was brought to 18 from 21. Many countries educate youth about their right to vote and power to each vote, power of each vote. What Indian authorities or Election Commission of India is doing on these lines? Can you think? If you can think, you are doing a great service to yourself by moving in the right direction. But when we talk about how it came into being, so our constitution, which provides for universal adult suffrage, was drafted by the Constituent Assembly, and this Constituent Assembly was composed of elected members, or I should say members, which were elected by restricted franchise. We all know that the Constituent Assembly was set up on the basis of the members who were actually part of the Provincial Assembly by the 1945 elections. So it was not an elected body, but it went on to demand and put into practice the idea of universal adult franchise. What do you mean by invasive species? Very important basic concept. Invasive species. Yes, tell me fast. What is coming to your mind? These are organisms. Maybe marine, maybe land, maybe otherwise. And they are both belong to flora and fauna. They migrate or they are introduced in new geographical locations, which they are detrimental or they are posing to the local threat to the local environment. They could be insects, plants, animals, pathogens, species, and they grow and multiply in a very fast manner. They start growing faster than their original home, and that is why it become a huge problem for the area where they are actually found. So original home is fine, but the new area may be they are unintentionally or intentionally creating issue with the local environment. That is why. So how these species spread? What is the key issue? Why it is happening? For instance, the the insects may come along with their luggage. Some species are introduced on purpose as pets initially, all to combat pests, but sooner or later they create imbalance in the local ecosystem. That is why we call them invasive species. Invasive. So name and the connotation says they cannot be helpful, they cannot be positive for the local nature. So why they are considered threats? They, as I told you, they are causing harm to the ecosystem. Why? Because there are no natural predators for them. No natural predators. कोई natural उनका सामी नहीं है उन पे अटैक करने वाला. The new and aggressive species they spread faster and the native species के पास defense mechanism नहीं है. They lack defense mechanism. That is why it gives a boost to the invasive species and they create a lot of issue and economic cost, social cost, and environmental cost to the local environment and the system. They are even these species are capable of changing the local ecosystem. They are capable of changing the food web, or I should say food web is also impacted. We know what is food web and food cycle. Even people who depend on that local resources, they also get uh, affected tremendously, and that is why species are capable of changing even the soil chemistry of the local area. You see how dangerous and how unwanted they are. In these times, you can say that these invasive species are kind of a biological weapon which a country may use against another country also. It is a kind of a distraction, it is a kind of a big issue. So there are sometimes there are unexpected benefits also. For example, Joro spiders, Joro, Joro spiders, because Joro spiders act as natural pest controllers. They kill mosquitoes, biting flies, and sting bugs. You know, if you can recall, if you can think of, wow, that's a positive thing. So this becomes an important point from the examination perspective. But when we talk about India, there are invasive species. For example, fragmatized karka in Chilka Lake, Subabul in Delhi and NCR region is growing fastly, and survives in harsh conditions. Zebra drove, another term that we are using is zebra drove. This fact, I am keeping these facts for you so that you can use them or you can write it down somewhere in your notes. 40% of India's tiger range has been invaded by Lanthana camara, a tropical American shrub. Lanthana camara. Cotton mealy bug, that is native to North America. It has severely affected cotton crops in Deccan. And Amazon sailfin catfish. Amazon sailfin catfish, that is Petrogagoplacitus paradilis. This species is responsible for destroying fish population in the wetlands of Kolkata. So, a Zoological Survey of India, which has created a list of such species, invasive species. Now, Lumbini, it's a Buddhist pilgrim site. I'm sure you are aware about it. You know about it. It is linked with the birthplace of Lord Buddha, and we know that commemorative pillars were erected by Emperor Ashoka when he visited the place in 3rd century BCE. There is a famous Mahadevi temple, and in 1997, this place was enacted as a part of the World Heritage Site. But what else in historical terms? It is linked with it was near the place Kapilvastu, and you can say according to the Buddhist tradition, Buddha was born here. A pillar was discovered at Rupan Dehi, which is linked with Lumbini. Rupan Dehi, a pillar was discovered at Rupan Dehi, and this place in 1896, I should say, when Rupan Dehi place was discovered, this place was marked by the visit of Ashoka. The site was not known as Lumbini before this pillar was discovered. That is very important. And that is why the inscription on the pillar says, when the king Devanam Priyadarshi Raja visited the place and he worshipped, he came here on the 20th regnal year, 20th ruling year, he came here, he worshipped, and because he worshipped the Buddha Shakyamuni, because Buddha Shakyamuni was born here, this became a very important and a very historical place in Buddhism and otherwise also. And he said that this place becomes blessed, and everyone is blessed because we know we are linked in some manner with the Lord Buddha. That is why he made the village of Lumbini free of paying taxes. This is very important from the examination perspective. Ashoka made an exemption in terms of paying taxes by the Lumbini village and paying only one eighth share of produce. 1/8 share of produce was supposed to be given, and it was exempted from, it was free of taxes. That is what makes history relevant, and also what we take from the past and ideas that we can use in the future. So thank you for watching. Please share, subscribe and comment, because there are no shortcuts to success, and every single thought process which makes you work harder and smarter for yourself is the only way ahead. Thank you very much. Keep watching and commenting on Ansarkari, your own one-stop individual mentorship channel in India.